Lisa's Changing Perceptions with Lisa Eflin. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Lisa. It is actually a 9:01 on a Sunday. We're usually dead on time for 9 o'clock. A minute late onto the live stream here, but we're thrilled and happy to be here. Lisa, good morning. Thanks for being here today.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. And
we had a little snafu real quick.
We did. And luckily, we were not live when we had that snafu. So, now today, Lisa, you said you wanted to talk about the silent wounds of judgment.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's, how we wing it and we find the topic. And I'm thinking that really is the topic between our conversation. For those of you who haven't heard this before, Pete is smoking it this morning.
Oh, my goodness. I'm telling you, I don't know what the deal is. I'm usually so much better at this. And
we were having conversation this morning, and the conversations that I'm having with clients and friends and people in general and watching what's going on in the world. And for those of you who don't know, I never pre-write a show. I very rarely, unless I have a guest, know what I'm speaking about. I was supposed to have a guest this week, but she had an emergency come up. So, of course, that is a priority. I'm never going to force anybody to be on the show.
And good morning. Ted Legal says, good morning, everyone.
Morning, Ted.
Love your show. Ted does love your show. Even though he's an avid listener to a lot of our shows, I think this is his favorite.
Oh, thank you, Ted. That's nice. So yeah, I thought we just kind of go about that because I see the whole world on fire right now. And there's so many people with so many different life experiences and situations and clients that I've had. And like I said, even friends and just conversations. I'm very friendly. So even in the store, I can tend to run into a conversation at the checkout line. I just like to talk to people, and everybody is feeling so overwhelmed right now. There's a lot of fear, and everybody's afraid of what choices and opportunities they're going to have. And then on top of it, afraid of the judgment of society, especially because society is so split in half right now. Yeah. So I thought we'd talk about that. But real quick, to get the professional things out of the way. And we do have a sponsor. So Pete's going to read that in at some point here. You want to go ahead and start her?
As a matter of fact, yes, we do want to thank very much the support of the Bremer team, Keller Williams, North Shore West, bremerteam.com. Go check them out. They actually have an office right here in McHenry, Illinois, right there on Green Street, and would love to have you visit them if you're looking for a home, selling a home, whatever it is. They do bring people home. That's what they do. Don Bremer, fantastic realtor. You're just not going to find anybody better. And we are sincerely appreciative of Bremer team, Keller Williams, North Shore West support of Lisa's Changing Perceptions.
Yes, thank you very much for sponsoring the show. I'm flattered and excited. For those of you who are new, I'm Lisa. I am Lisa's Changing Perceptions. I am a hypnotherapist and a self-empowerment coach is what I've decided to call it, because I'm not really a life coach. People have asked me why I don't call myself a life coach. Because face it, we live life. We do the best we can. And I feel like what I do and the tools that I use is something a little bit different than that, because I like to have people feel self-empowered. I like to offer them tools and understanding so that they can kind of go out life and make their choices. So it's not that it's that much different, really. It's just people don't understand the wording. So I take a moment to explain it. I teach people how to control and regulate their body to responses to things and then anxieties. I have a certification in biofeedback, a diploma in hypnotherapy, and I have specialties in PTSD, trauma, pain management, autoimmune disease. And I always mention it, but I never use it. I actually have an advanced certification in handwriting analysis that I do not ever use, but I do have one, and it's very interesting.
That's
and I am
cool.
Currently getting my double certification in neurolinguistic programming. So I like to work with not only how somebody thinks or how they feel, but I like to try to get to the why they feel that way so that we can actually heal the wound versus just tell them to think differently, because sometimes for some people you can't just think differently. We're pre-programmed for things. And also with the neuro-linguistic programming, what it does is everybody doesn't accept information. And this kind of leads into what we're going to talk about today. Not every person on the planet accepts information the same way everybody else does. People take in information and perceive information on different aspects based on different experiences, based on the way their brain works, based on their brain chemistry, based on their life circumstances. I mean, it's based on a million different things. And everybody thinks that everybody is going to see everything from their own perception. They're not going to, and they can't. So the neuro-linguistic programming is helping me to learn how to access the way someone sees or feels or thinks a certain way, so that as I work with them, I have an understanding of them versus them having to have an understanding of me.
Yeah.
Because face it, when they go out the rest of their life, truth is, I don't matter anymore. They have to be able to figure it out. And that's why I like the self-empowerment coaching, because I like to give the tools that for the rest of their life, when they can understand themselves better,
Mm-hmm.
and they can understand how they perceive things better, as things in life later on come in, they can resort back to, okay, wait a minute, I know that this is what triggers me, or I know that this is how I see this thing. I know how I react to this thing. And then they have the tools to kind of back up and go, okay, what do I do with this? Okay, I can apply that, and I can do this and move forward.
Yeah.
So for the kind of a general gist of what I do, I do get into the woo-woo a little bit, but it's not really as much. I'm pretty open-minded when it comes to people's belief systems and what it is they choose to do. So that's the background. But Pete and I were talking, as we always do. I always get here about a half an hour early, and Pete and I chat while we're doing it, and it always gives me the idea for the show. So here we are.
She says, go ahead, talk. And so I talk.
Right.
And sometimes it's great. Sometimes then she'll say, okay, you can shut up now. But no, and one thing, Ted actually is jumping in here. By the way, Donna Baker Leckman.
Hi, Mom.
Says, yep. And also Ted Legal says, one thing to remember is things are going to be okay. We can still do most of the things we could before COVID, just in a different manner. Change can be good. Let's think positive and adjust the best we can, helping each other get through this. And that's a good positive attitude. By the way, Kent says, Kent Jones, happy Sunday, y'all, says he. And it is Y''ALL. And he says, I jumped on late. Can you start over? As a matter of fact, Kent, that actually, goodness, as you can see through, I'm popping their comments up the screen because Lisa can't actually see.
I cannot see because I have the phobia of the big giant.
Yeah, she doesn't want to watch herself on the Jumbotron that we have here in the studio. So I am narrating what I am doing for everybody on the radio now who can't see.
You know what, though? I get as many comments about you as I do about me. So
Really? People
like the fact that we go back and forth on the air.
Good.
So that's okay.
Good. Okay, good. Then I don't feel too bad because this is your show. It's not my show. So Kent, can we start over? Probably wouldn't be a bad idea this morning. I mean, that's all my fault. I thought I was running on super, super good this morning. And then every button I seemed to click just wasn't working. And
he said something right before when we weren't sure he was on the air, and it was like, uh-oh.
Yeah, but thankfully we weren't. We were not on the air when I said what I said.
So Kent, we'll snapshot it for you. We're going to do the silent wounds of judgment, and we're going to kind of add in what's going on out in society right now, and the division of everybody. I'm sure Kent has something to say. It's actually a shame he didn't come in here because he would be a good with this conversation as well.
Yeah.
And as far as the comments about Pete and I, and I've only briefly said this to Pete, so I'm throwing Pete on the spot, which I really like to do because hopefully it'll make him real uncomfortable.
Go ahead.
I'm debating doing another show another night during the week where I am going to ask Pete if he would like to do it with me, because I would like to do a show called What If? Just in general, what if? And we talk about woo-woo. What if it's real? What if it's this? What if it's that? Just kind of.
That might be kind of fun.
Kind of what if and haunted pictures, but also what if with all kinds of things in life. Just what if.
Just what if.
Because people tend to get, and it kind of fills into today's show. People get very locked into, but this is the way I see it. This is the way it is. And they don't have really an open perspective. And right now, because fear is one of the biggest things out there right now, and fear is the greatest controller of man. or animal, truth.
Yeah.
Fear is the greatest controller. And people have looked at me funny when I've said that, but I said, but think about it. What do blackmailers do? What do manipulators do?
Yeah.
You know, we base so much of our decisions on fear, but we also base many judgments on fear. Because part of the fear when we place a judgment is somebody being afraid of what if I'm wrong? What if my whole life I believed something and it ended up not being true?
And see that's interesting. That
and
really
that's why I
is.
love the question, just general, what if?
What if?
What if?
And
What
Kent,
if it's not?
Kent says, I love that new show idea. And for all of you who don't know who Kent is, he's the other owner here at the station. And, he was making fun of me yesterday when I tuned in to Metaphysical Meanderings for not catching the other. And I will say Kent is amazingly good at catching pretty much every live show that runs live when he's able. And sometimes,
well, he has a great new one too, though. So
and
we're
he's got It's Your Move tonight, right. Sundays at 7 p.m., which is basically a review of current events and then asking you, okay, here you have it. This is what's going on. It's your move.
Exactly.
What's
and
next?
That fills into kind of what we were talking about today too, is we have a society so filled with fear right now, which is feeding anxiety, and that also another mind controlling type of a thing. But fear is the number one controller. And we need to learn how to step outside of that fear. And it's very difficult right now with the division of people and the division of country, even right now, to step outside of that fear, because just outside of that fear is judgment.
Yeah.
And, if I step outside the box, and this is what I'm kind of seeing and hearing, is people are so adamant that they have to be right, that what they've believed has been right, that the way they see it is right, that the way they've experienced life is the only way. They're so adamant to believe that even as things begin to change or mold, and truthfully, I don't know which way all of the crazy is going to go. But here's the problem.
Yeah.
If just outside of fear, if you step outside of your fear to be open and judgment is there, you're still stuck. Because what if, regardless of what side of the coin you want to say you're on in this situation, okay? What if you step out there and you begin to change your thought? People are so angry, and I'm seeing such vile things on Facebook, and I am ashamed of people I even know and love. I'm just going to say that there. I am ashamed of some of the things that I'm seeing people say and the way they're treating other people. And what my concern in all of it is that even if people begin to change their mind a little bit, change their view a little bit, try to kind of find a compromise place in there, try to be open-minded, it's almost not worth it, because they're going to have fear. And what's happening is that when you start to change an open mind to a different direction a little bit, or to compromise in the middle, people are attacking with, I told you so. See, why were you stupid? And all these horrible comments.
Yeah, they're all going to laugh at you. They're all going to.
And so it's like, okay, well, fine, then we'll be stuck in this division forever. And no one's going to change. And here's the truth. Here's my truth, at least. Neither side is 100% right.
Nah.
Both sides of this, and I don't even believe there's two sides, but we're going to do that for the narrative that's out there. Both sides have very good points. Both sides have very big things that suck. Period.
Yeah.
And that's the way life is always going to be for most things. And even in everyday life, in relationships, in jobs, in our choices, we have to always make choices that aren't always 100%. Life is not 100% butterflies, rainbows, uniform corns. Okay, it's
uniformed corns.
Unicorns. I was going to say unicorn.
Look at that corn in a uniform.
Then I tried to decide, is that appropriate?
No,
so now you made me spit it out. So now we'll just be inappropriate. Not worry about it.
And Kent actually popped in here with a comment. It says, bellwether, in quotes, fear always works. The state of nature has no security, and therefore everyone must live in constant fear. So really, providing security means limiting the object of our fear. And then he says, that's actually a quote from the kids movie Zootopia.
Thank you.
I mean,
Ken, for
it's not a bad quote.
No, and it's true. And I'm seeing these attacks. And part of with what I do in my office with clients, I see so many people who come in, and the majority, I work with teens in groups. I don't really do one-on-one with teens. I work with teens in groups, and I work with adults anywhere from their 20s to 70s. I've had truly every age range and every life experience, different thing. And what's interesting is that the majority of the things that are there true, when we start peeling the onion, so they say, and we start kind of getting to the core of things, it really is true. Like I explained to people, the majority of our subconscious mind is 88% of our thinking. Our unconscious is 88% of our thinking. And the majority of that developed by the time we were 9. And when we start peeling the onion, we get down to the truth of these are childhood things that we've held on to and we've grown and we've stacked onto. I have seen people who are still hurting and making choices because of bullying as a child, because of parental dysfunction, household dysfunction, neglect, abuse beyond words that I can't discuss, but I actually broke down in tears in my office, which is very unprofessional, and I avoid at all costs, but I couldn't help it. I wasn't ugly crying, but I shouldn't have expressed the emotion that I did, but I couldn't help it. All the different traumas, and it's carried. So the reason I'm even saying that is, as the world's divided, and as people are being so incredibly narrow-sighted, vile, and horrible, not only are you obviously expressing your fear, even if you don't realize it, because your fear of not being right, or your fear that the world won't be how you want it to be because you must have the magic answer. I don't have the magic answer. There's one, to me, for me at least, there's one being that has the magic answer, and he hasn't whispered it to me, and I don't have direct dial, contrary to what people seem to believe. But all of these things that you're doing, all of these behaviors that we're having, all of these reactions that we're seeing, all of the violence, all of the ugly, all of the judgment, all of the division, I'm going to cry.
It's okay. It's all right.
What you all fear isn't the worst of it. You are subconsciously training the children of our world.
Right.
To be angry, to
Well,
be
look
violent.
what's going on right now. Yeah.
To be angry, to be violent, to be fearful, to have so many wounds. I just talked to a young girl, not a child, but a young woman the other day, who said, I'm so sick of politics. I'm so sick of hearing it all. And I said, I know. I said, it's weird. It's almost like a nighttime drama now where you're waiting for the next, what happens next for the next segment. And I said, but it's sad that it has overwhelmed you the way it is, because I truly believe that we are at a state of the world right now that this could truly be something that is only going to be seen in once in my lifetime and once in yours. And it's where it is quite possible a large part of the way we know life is going to change. One way or the other, whatever, many different ways. But the saddest part, I want to cry again, sorry.
It's all right.
Is what won't change is the damage we're doing to the children. And the complete shit example we are being for those children. So when I deal with adults who are truly wounded and people don't understand because they didn't have the right hair, or they couldn't afford the right clothes, or their parents had an issue, or their house wasn't nice enough, or you know what, I've met students at the school that have lived in cars with their parents because that was the best they had. Those things are already happening. And now on top of it, we're teaching them hate and violence. I watched a video clip with a man holding his little boy up that couldn't have been more than 7. to give a cop the finger right to his face as his dad held him up.
And see, it bothers me tremendously when people think, "Oh, that's so funny, that's so cute." It's
you're training
them to do that, to be that kind of person. And when little kids say curse words, I mean, at home, I know that I could make George Carlin blush, and my wife and my kids, even growing up, they're like, you watch your mouth at home. Because my professional life required such that you find a substitution word for everything you want to say. And but it's not funny. And we had a rule: you don't cuss. Well, you did it. Yeah. Well, when you get to be my age, you say whatever you want to say. You, as a child, don't do that. It's not okay. We don't tolerate that, which is probably a double standard. And I'm not giving a very good example. It's more of a do what I say, not what I do
right.
kind of thing. But it's at the same time now, I do have children that are adult children. Every single one of them are. Our youngest just turned 22, and they are not foul-mouthed people.
But that brings up a good point, because that my guest today that was going to come, and I'll give you a quick synopsis for when she comes. She's a friend of mine. She's not a client. She's a friend of mine who grew up with a single mother with severe addiction problems and men in the house type situation. She was an only child. She ended up at a young age, and I'll let her tell the story as to why, but with an incredibly abusive relationship at a very young age, like teenager, and had multiple children with them, and went through some abuse that she'll talk about that was very severe. And at one point got whatever within her to pull herself and say enough. And she turned her whole life different. And she's had a couple more children. And they're all fabulous. And they're college graduates and college students. And they're doing incredibly well. And when I asked her one day when we became friends, I asked her, I said, what made you the great mom you are? And she is one of the most loving and caring people I know. And she said, I took my situation and I chose what I didn't want to be. So I'm not criticizing that, but your children may have, if it bothered them, they may have said, you know what, I'm not this way because I didn't want that.
They didn't want that.
Right,
no,
or they didn't like
that's
it.
Because that's what I've done. And in any time I catch myself doing something and I think, oh, my dad would have done that. I hate that. And I'm like, ugh. I do not want to emulate my father. I don't. Not in any way, shape, or form. He was not a bad man.
No, but there were things that you chose.
He was actually very kind, but he was also phenomenally self-focused. The world really didn't exist outside of his own concept of self. And that's who he was.
Right.
I will share here, Kent has actually, I'm going to read a lot of what Kent has said because he's on a roll here and his fingers are probably starting to bleed.
How far are you?
Yeah. Kent says talking about the children that you were talking about, some have perhaps already done that. The 20-something-year-olds now they don't know winner or losers. I'm correcting some of his typos as they grew up. I'm guessing, Kent, let me know if that was what you meant. They grew up understanding, and I'm paraphrasing here now, participation was key. Now that they find out there is a winner and there is a loser, because that is life, they become very mad. And the slippery side is, he believes it started when everything had to become PC, that whole political correctness thing. And then he says the programming from Hollywood and the media has created quite a mess as well. And we can jump in on all this. By the way, as your mom already said, good morning. My mom has tuned in now.
Good morning.
And she says, by the way, I'll read this verbatim. This is coming from my mother, not from me. It says, "I love your tears, my darling, with a heart. You are so real."
Oh,
And that is what I think an enormous amount of people love about your show is it is you. You are you. You're not an act. You're not.
I'm not good at it.
No.
I'm not good at BS.
So you're not. And now Ted has something very long that actually won't fit on the screen. So I'll share this. And then we can talk about Ted and Kent's feedback here on these things. Ted says, and Ted, this is like a book, so bear with me here. "One of the things I have learned about difficult times and change over the past 20 years of dealing with a lot of crap is one, you can't stop change. All you can do is roll with the changes. Two, everyone will have an opinion of you, and what they perceive is your life. Not everyone will agree with what you do. Remember, their opinions do not make up who you are. Your own opinions do. Own them. Three, everyone has fears. Pick the fears that bother you the most and get help from others to work through them. And four, Ted, I thought you said I had learned one thing, but we're on item four.
But we're on number four.
This is great, actually. Item four, always recognize the things you can't change. Change the things you can. So between Kent and Ted, that's a lot to digest right now, along with everything you've already laid out for us.
Well, and in the end, you choose who you want to be. You choose the situation you want to be in. And you choose what you do with your life circumstances and your traumas. And you're always going to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And sometimes within the mistake is the learning. Sometimes within the mistake is the greatest. Sometimes our so-called mistakes are our greatest life builders, our greatest pieces of who we are. And I was going to do this today and I decided not to, and I can't because there's not enough time left. But at some point, I'm going to share the story of my son, which is going to be very controversial, especially in the current times. But it is a true story of judgment. But in losing my son, and I'll tell the whole story at another time because it'll really take a whole show. It was one of the most traumatizing events of my life. Ooh. But
it's all right.
Within my life, because of that, even though my girls will argue with you when I'm mad, I was a better mother. I was that mom when my kids were little that every kid went to their house. Like things were always at my house. I had teenagers as this whole transgender and sexual orientation questions when my daughters were in high school became very strong and a very apparent thing. My girls were very open-minded. I taught them not to judge. They had been judged within themselves, within their lives, and they learned not to judge. I had kids who came when parents didn't accept them to my house. I had children knock on my door at 11 o'clock at night saying I have nowhere to go. Ooh. I have taken in children that were not my own, compromised my own security. People don't realize the true damage they are causing in this moment of our world. And regardless of the human being who stands behind a podium at some point, you are responsible for your behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
You are responsible for the example that you set. And if you choose to sit behind a bar stool or a computer screen, being a keyboard warrior, you are still setting an example for the world. And so many people say, but that's not my responsibility. That's not my kid. That's not my this or that. That's fine. You have a right to have that viewpoint. You have a right to not hold accountability. You have a right to not have gratitude for what you've been blessed with. You have a right to feel any freaking way you choose to. Regardless of what that is, the truth will still be the truth. And you are a part of this world. You are a part of this life. You are a part of your community. You are a part of your workspace. You are a part of the energy. You are a part of everything, whether you like it or not, whether you deny it or not, whether you drink it away or not. Regardless of what your choice is, you are a part of this and you affect everything around you. And even the so-called Facebook jokes are harmful and bitter, and the world is going downhill. And you can blame it on one side or the other, all you choose to. It is each individual human being's fault. We are all accountable for what we do and what we choose. We are all accountable. We cannot change what has happened to us in our life, but we can damn well change what we do about it and how we react to it. And some of you, when I do decide to tell the story, will be very surprised at what it is. The judgment out there where people are perceived only from your own perspective is killing the country and the world in ways that you don't even realize. You think it's in this moment. You think it's in this election. You think it's in this one thing. We won't see the true damage of what the behaviors right now are occurring for another 10 years, 15 years. When all these young children whose unconscious minds are developing, whose brains are developing, who are determining what's right or wrong, who are learning coping skills, who are seeing how to solve problems, who are seeing how to feel, who are seeing what self-esteem is, who are seeing what society is, become adults, and they don't know what the hell to do besides fight or cry or feel like there's nothing more to do, that they can't change anything. All they can do is scream. All they can do is yell. And they have no sense of family. They have no sense of relationship. They have no sense of value, because none of that crap matters. All that matters is the stomping of the feet and the fact that the whole damn world better see it my way. And you know what? We'll all be at fault for that. The world will never see everything from your one human being's perspective. Two people cannot see things exactly the same way. There will always be things that are disagreed on. There will always be things that are seen differently. There's always going to be some kind of conflict in life and in the world, because there's so many different people with so many different experiences and so many things going on. The bottom line is, who the hell are you going to be in it? And I repeat it almost every show, and I mean it, because I go to bed every night and I ask, would my maker be proud? If I die today, will my maker be proud? Will I be proud to speak what I did, what my choices were? And if my answer for the day is no, and sometimes it really is, no, I wish I would have done that different, then I say, if you give me one more day, I'll try and do better tomorrow. And if my answer is yes, cheer on. Yay, that's a good day. That's the way it goes. But in mistakes and in victories, we are still responsible for ourselves. When something else or someone else traumatizes us, we are still responsible for our reaction to that. And harming others, there's a big statement, I've said it before, I have it in my classroom, I have a big dry erase board, and I have little motivational things all over it. And believe it or not, the kids ended up actually loving it, because I get the naughty kids, and I love the naughty kids, but I get the naughty kids, but they end up loving these things. But one of them on there says, and it's one of them that they kind of make comments about the most, and it says, the moment you take your trauma and react to someone else causing harm, you have chosen to become the predator and no longer the victim.
Wow, and you give some thought to that. That made me spark something, but Ted actually has a comment here that I'll get through first. So it says, so well said. This is one reason I love your show. As a community, I feel it is our responsibility to get involved in helping others to make our world a better place. Social media is a great avenue to be responsible and help others. One man does not make or break our country. We do. And, I agree with you there on that, Ted. Things matter to a point, but ultimately, like you said, Lisa, it's really how you decide to react to things as a person. And it wasn't until, and we've talked about this before, until I hit my mid-40s that I realized, you know what, Pete, you actually can decide how you're going to react in each moment. And to the point where in many cases, and even recently, I've stepped back and waited Probably waited a little too long to react to things, but by the time I do, I actually am much calmer, and the outcome has been far better than it would have been if I did up until maybe I was 45, 46 or so. Did that knee-jerk reaction, and then everybody would have just a really bad time. It wasn't great.
Right.
And it's with how do I want to say? I guess I will just say this. With that realization, it has made my life a lot better, but also a little bit more challenging to look in the mirror and go, dude, how do you really feel about this thing?
Exactly.
And how honest are you going to be about how you feel? Because just like you said, and just like the topic of the show today, that judgment thing is that something I want to deal with or don't want to deal with? I don't have much, if at all any, of an embarrassment gene. I get very frustrated with myself over things, not really embarrassed, just very frustrated. And then also there are things that I don't necessarily want to put out in the world because you know what? I don't want to deal with the judgment. And it's not an embarrassing thing. It's just, look, this is my thing. It's not your thing. It's not their thing. This is my thing. And you don't need to know anything about it. So I just
right. And we don't want
places.
that judgment. And within that, what I've discovered is, and I tell this with clients, I say this with my students, I say this with the people in my life. Anger, here's the reality check. Anger is buried hurt.
Yeah.
And when the hurt comes to the surface, people don't want to feel. That's one of the biggest things that I talk with my clients about. Burying feelings causes a lot of discomfort. And when you've done that for long enough, it comes out in anger. And anger is buried hurt, and all these hurts are coming up, and people aren't allowed to flow them or express them. And we have, and people will have other viewpoints of this, and that is fine. Then you get a show and you tell them.
Yes, get a show and tell them.
We've trained our children, and in truth ourselves, but we've trained our children and our young people. We wonder why they've changed the way that they have, because we've trained them that feeling uncomfortable isn't okay. That feeling uncomfortable, they should never have to do. We've taught them that discomfort isn't allowed. And in truth, now people don't know how to cope with discomfort. Sometimes, and I'm with Kent on the everybody needs a trophy thing. I don't agree with that. Sometimes I believe that that's the universe or God or spirit or flying monkeys or whatever you believe in, guiding you in a different direction when that's not your niche. That's not your thing.
Kent also says if you don't heal what hurt you, you'll bleed on people who didn't cut you.
Absolutely. Hurt people.
Yeah, which can be quite messy. Don't bleed on me, man.
Hurt people. Exactly.
Yeah.
And we've developed a society that doesn't know how to feel discomfort, that doesn't know how to take disappointment, that doesn't know how to understand that. And why? Because first off, even if they attempt to accept that, then it's, the loser, you didn't make it, you've got all that judgment outside of there. If you even tend to be strong enough, and teenagers, and I mean it, strong enough to accept the fact that something isn't for you does not mean failure. It can mean success, because you realize one thing off your plate, and that will allow you to find the thing that's yours. It does not mean failure. Our society sucks. Don't listen to them. It does not mean failure. By knowing what isn't good for us, what doesn't work for us, what doesn't fit for us, is as valuable as knowing what does. But we have a society that is completely based on a level of success that, first off, is insurmountable for the most part, because you'll never be good enough. With our society, you can succeed in one thing and you'll still have another thing that isn't good enough. So nobody ever feels complete. We don't allow children to feel disappointment. We don't allow, and I do realize I'm generalizing, but this is the majority, and I deal with enough children to feel confident in what I'm saying. We don't allow children to be bored. We don't allow children to be bored.
And see that,
and
bingo,
bored, that's
bingo.
your creativity.
Oh my
when
gosh,
you're bored,
yeah.
your mind starts to work. You start to discover and imagine and figure it out. And when you're bored, you want to figure out something to do. Well, allow them to do that. Allow them to be bored.
Yeah.
Allow them to use that creativity. That's where you discover what you like and what you don't like and what you're good at and what you're not good at. That's when you step outside your box. That's when you do that. We have to keep our kids so busy, so busy, so busy.
And
I once knew somebody who actually put a 5th grade child in, they were playing softball. My kids play t-ball. I love you, my daughters, but they are not athletically inclined. Okay, so they did the t-ball thing. And that was fine. And my husband coached, and we were those people. We were the suburban soccer people. And people actually hired professional coaches for their 5th graders. And I was like, what? you did
so you
what?
want professional coaches to herd cats?
Right. To play ball, because, you got to be the best. And I thought, well, I wanted them to exercise and not mess up the house. So I put them in something.
Some people take
And
the
they liked
sports
it.
thing super seriously.
But academics are the same way,
I get that to a point. Now, when we were little, if I said I'm bored, well, my mom had plenty of housework for me to do.
Exactly.
Or it was then go find something to do. One of the things we had when I was little, which I absolutely loved, were these great big, they were big to me. They were probably about the size of a shoebox, but they were painted cardboard blocks when they were painted to look like bricks.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. They're like red and yellow and blue.
No, they were just like bricks, like a brick house.
Oh, okay.
Just painted to look like a brick house. But we had like loads of them. And so you could build a fort with the wall, or you could build a great big wall, or do whatever. Then you just run through them, knock them down, do whatever, throw them at your little brother, whatever it might be, which, sorry, Jason, I did do that a couple times. He threw them back. But at the same time, you had that opportunity to go use your imagination when we were kids. And we did the same for ours. Our kids, I'm so bored. There's nothing to do here. Well, here's a stick.
Well, and I have parents saying, well, my kid doesn't talk to me. My kid doesn't listen to me. Well, how many hours a day are they behind earbuds and technology and, staring at a computer screen to entertain them? We've kind of trained them that that's how you communicate. That's why somebody brought up the cursive thing in school the other day, and there's so many reasons I have issue with that. But
do they actually really not teach that anymore?
No. And I find
it's so weird.
And it's and of course, because I do have some knowledge in handwriting analysis. Your handwriting and your cursive handwriting has so much of your personality and yourself in it. It's so custom and unique to you. But we've created this society where what makes somebody, especially teenagers right now and young people, what makes somebody feel valuable is the most YouTube clicks or the most likes on their Facebook page or their and oftentimes, more times than not, there's no personality in there. It's what's going to draw the most attention versus the creativity of your signature, the creativity of writing a letter to somebody, the personalization, the energy. There's actual energy that goes into writing. Part of the therapy when I work with people is that when I say, I have a questionnaire that I have them fill out. And some people have said, can I just type it on my computer? And I'm like, I prefer you not. And it only has to do with the energy and the flow of you going into that, and it allows that to come out of you. It's a true, for those of you that want to follow the science, it's a true scientific fact that as you write, energy flows and parts of you come out of it. And we're losing so much of that. And, kids now, teens now, young people now are basing their own value on those little clicks on the computer screen. And sadly, so are a lot of your parents. Stop it. Stop it. People say, Lisa, how can we change things? How can we make things different? Be different. Change happens when change happens. And if you're an adult on the computer screen looking for the most likes on a meme, if you're an adult on the computer screen having a Facebook drama, fight, battle, especially with those of you who do it with spouses, shame on you for fighting on Facebook. Shame on you.
Yeah, that's wow. Yeah,
if you're wanting the funniest meme, if you're on Facebook doing a Facebook Live or a video of yourself doing shots and playing beer pong at 50, if you do that, that's fine. I don't care what you do. But when you're putting that out there and making that our norm, and making how many likes you get or how good your selfie is, or people won't even put up a real picture of themselves anymore. They have to put little stuff on it because, oh my God, God forbid we knew what we look like. And I know that, Judgment, because that is why I won't have that Jumbotron on. I can't look at that. So I totally get it. But this is what we've come to, and the whole world right now wants to blame it on because it's a certain race or because it's a certain sexual orientation or because it's a president or because it's a this or because it's a that. It's because we're asses and we've let technology take over. Yeah. And we've slowly but surely allowed this technology and this unrealistic world to suck in. Even the reality shows aren't reality, people. They're written. Seriously, get a grip.
They're scripted. And Sandy Gibson says, let your kids go outside and get dirty. Let them explore the world. And we did so much of that as a kid. And in fact, it was go outside. Just go. Just go
I remember
outside.
when my daughter was my oldest daughter, who's funny because she's a little germophobe now. So it's a little bit funny. But when before she could even walk, she was crawling and scooting around. And she would go over. I had a 150-pound Rottweiler. And she would go over while he was eating and pull some of the dry dog food out of his mouth and eat it.
Ew.
And I couldn't get her to stop it. So I went into her doctor's appointment. I'm like, listen, this is what she does. And he laughed. He said, is it good dog food? I said, it is quality dog food. Why? He said, I never saw a kid die of dog spit. Good germs. Now, am I telling you to go have your child feed out of the dog's mouth? No, I'm not. But my point is that let kids get dirty. Let kids play. Quit worrying about everything. Why do I believe we have so many autoimmune disorders? Why do I believe we have? Because sometimes we just are over freaky and we're over paranoid. And why? Because somebody put down on some piece of paper that you can't do this, or one or two people had an experience that started the roll. Not everybody has the same experience. Not everybody has the same body. If we know something for fact, put it out there. But everything that's said isn't true. And here, news flash, red alert, news flash across the bottom of the screen. Just because it's on Facebook doesn't mean it's true. And just because it's on the news doesn't mean it's true. And just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true. People, experience life for yourselves. Use your own brains. Take your own life experience. Use your own thought processes. Do some little research and stop being guided around, regardless of your viewpoint of this, by your little horn on your nose being led through the world.
Yeah.
Show our children who, when we're old, will be running this country. You think it's scary now? Have a bunch of people who don't know these things. We're going to be seniors and nothing we can do about it. And this is what we're training people to do.
Yeah.
Use your brains, and more so, allow your heart to reattach to your brain.
Yeah, 20 years from now it could be kind of scary if you think, well, and I haven't been thinking about that. But Ted actually has. Ted, I'm gonna read through some of this. You've got a lot to say, which is great. Love it. But also, it is important to remember the quality of life you live is not always caused by the situation you are in. The quality of life you have is up to you. What you learn from each situation and your decision is not to let the same bad things happen to you goes a long way to make for a better life. If you are looking for a trophy, working through difficult times is your trophy.
Yes, your empowerment, your pride,
yeah,
your self-esteem, your self-confidence, your ability to be proud of yourself, even when no one else sees it.
Yeah.
That is the greatest gift in the world. I've faced many things, and in time, they'll all kind of come into surface because I talk about everything. But there's been many decisions that I've made that have caused me to be in situations that are very uncomfortable, very insecure, situations I don't like to be in. And when those happen, in order to keep my anger from flying off the handle, I stop and I take a breath and step back and ask myself. Now, that doesn't mean I never have a tantrum, people. Let me promise you that. And say, if you had to do it over, what would you change? Would you do it differently? And in truth, the majority of the time I can say I would change little things, but I can be very proud to say, oh, no, cry again. Since my husband died, every single choice I have ever made, even that didn't turn out well, I truly made with good intentions. Now, maybe I didn't see it right. Maybe I put too much heart into it and not enough head. You know, we all kind of balance that do that juggling act. But I can truly say at no point can I recall, as I'm even looking in the mirror, where I said, you know what, I did that and I had bad intentions. So regardless of what the outcomes of these things have been or what pressures they've put me under and the judgment people have had of the choices that I've made, there's a weird self-pride in there that says, you know what, though? It really is true. I repeat it all the time. At the end of the day, if God forbid I leave here and a semi hits me pulling out on the road, I can look my maker in the eye. I've been bitter a few times at some people and said, that's okay, God saw you. That's about that usually gets my point. For me, it does, because it is my faith and it is my belief, and whatever you believe in is fine. But the point is that there's a self-pride, an integrity, and a self-respect that we're not teaching. We're not showing our younger generation that. We're showing them popularity and grades and sports and clicks on the YouTube and likes on your Facebook and how many friends you have on your Facebook. It's so funny how many people I've talked to that have Facebook friends that they don't know. Like they don't know them.
I have Facebook friends that I have no idea.
I do on my business page, but I have a personal page that I'm very personal about. Like if I don't personally know you and trust you, you're kind of not on there. That's my life. That's my privacy. That's, a part of who I am. And I don't hide much because I come on here and say it. But the point is that, it's like, oh my God, but I have to have more friends than so-and-so and these things. And now I will date stamp my forehead, these Snapchats and things that I don't know about. Oh, but I had so many people to do this. And oh my God, I had to Snapchat this. Stop. Everybody is looking for recognition and everybody wants to be seen. I get it. That is human nature. The whole world needs to take a breath and realize, at least for me, to be seen, if I get hit by that semi on the way out the door.
Well, quit saying that. Use something else. Maybe you stub your toe.
I use this all the time, so I haven't been hit by a semi yet, so I'm all right.
Okay, well, let's not plan on that.
When I'm seen by the world,
I need you here next week.
I don't want to be seen for how many people were on my Facebook or how many likes I got on a meme, because you know what? In 5 minutes, somebody else is going to top that.
No.
I do hope my children, whomever knows me, says I saw her succeed the best she could. That's the key. People want success to be what they've determined what success is. Society's judgments, what's politically correct. First off, the next person who tells me I word something that's not politically correct, look at our freaking politics. I don't care if I'm not with them. Because when I speak with good intention, and I don't speak to hurt or put anyone down. And that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
So just because next week the new word will be wrong, that is your problem, not my problem. Yeah. And that's what I mean by the judgments. We can't use this word now. You can't use that word now.
Yeah.
You can't do this. That's not politically correct. Something is politically correct now for about 5 minutes until the next person decides that it's insulting.
I can't even go get Aunt Jemima syrup anymore.
Oh, I don't even go there. I know.
I actually have some in my cupboard because I like it.
It's probably going to be a seller's thing in 10 years. So just hang on to it.
I may hang on to the bottle, but I mean, I love that stuff. It's really, really good. But the political correctness is insane. By the way, your mom, Donna Baker Leckman, sends you a bunch of hearts. And then Ted, again, says, our electronics have given us an easy way out of dealing with things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And an easy way out of never discovering who you truly are. You don't have to be who you truly are. You don't have to figure out who you truly are. It's all about what's the most popular thing happening right now.
Yeah.
And people don't know who they are. What do you like? And that's why, like, the political correct thing is kind of a joke, but I'm actually dead serious. Do not correct me and tell me I'm not politically correct, because there's nothing about politics, especially in this moment, that is correct. So I don't care. If anything, you're giving me kind of the badge of honor that I'm not politically correct. The point is, are people's intentions good? When somebody says something, did they mean to harm you? Are they saying it in a vile way?
Right.
Because I had a situation where there's a little girl. I say little girl because she's a teenager and I'm old. But there's a little girl who's trying to figure out her place in the world. And it has to do with gender orientation and what have you. And that's fine. And I was in group with her and I said, well, she's looking at this, and we were looking at this thing, and she said, I go by them. And I said, okay. And she was so offended. And here's my issue with that. In no way, and anyone who knows me well knows, in no way would I harm somebody's esteem on purpose. And I didn't have a poor intention in doing that. A female was sitting next to me, and I said, she's doing this. That my intention was, we were demonstrating something on a laptop. It was with biofeedback.
Yeah.
And she became so offended by that. Why? My intentions were not bad. But everybody is so triggered and everybody is so uptight that the whole world better do it how they want it done. Better see it how they see it. Life experience better. Everybody take a breath. What are people's intentions? Is somebody intentionally trying to harm you and make you feel bad? Is somebody treating you like you're an idiot? Well, are you? Because if you are, that ranks as your problem, not theirs. Yeah. And if you're not, just step back and go, you know what? How much does it matter that they feel that way?
Yeah.
Does it really affect my life? All of this, everybody's like walking around like this walking wound that can't be touched. And every little tiny thing is going to set everybody off. Stop it.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. Stop it. And what if, we'll just start it off in case Pete will do the show with me. And Kent, well, you'd be fun for you to be on there with us as well, because we have some good conversations too. What if for one day, even one day, everybody just took a breath and said, you know what? It's okay.
Yeah.
Everybody in the world isn't what is the word? White supremacist. Everybody isn't racist. Everybody isn't against my gender or my choices. Everybody isn't against my clothes. Everybody isn't against my car. Everybody isn't against everything. What if we were just us? Yeah. Period.
I think that's pretty good.
So we, of course, talked our way out of time. I thank everybody for joining. Those of you who have heard the show before know how to get a hold of me, so I won't waste the last.
Well, and actually, I've had your phone number up the entire show.
Okay.
So which says, 262-573-7055. Call Lisa. And we do have, of course, your website, lisaschangingperceptions.com, running across the bottom of the ticker, and Lisa at lisaschangingperceptions.com for your email. So everybody knows how to get a hold of you.
Good.
You definitely should. This has been an amazing conversation. And thank you for and this is just for you and I, thank you for your mood today.
Oh, I walked in and said, I'm in a mood.
Yeah.
Help push me through it. I'm in a mood.
but this has been a great one. This has been a fantastic show. You've done awesome. Thank you.
Have and everybody else,
we'll be back next week, Sunday, at 9 a.m. for Lisa's Changing Perceptions on 216 The Net, real life internet